Hi, this is Rabbi Orlofsky, and welcome to the 7th year of the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. This is our anniversary show, of which we have had 5. This is the 6th. We just finished 6 years of the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. And from time to time, I meet somebody. I just met somebody a few weeks ago who said to me, we discovered the show, and we sat there and listened to all 6 years. It was not 6 years yet at the time, but right up till the current episode, we just sat there and binge watched, or actually binge listened. It was going on in the background of my house the entire time. 6 years, a long time. That's a lot of episodes. And it's hundreds of hours of almost Torah content. And tremendous shout out to you, the listeners and watchers, because I know many people who would love to be able to do this. And some of them have actually tried, and they just couldn't get anybody to watch, to listen. So that really, takes it down a notch. The fact that we have such a loyal group of people who name themselves the Rabbi Orlofsky Crazies, and you know who you are. We love you all. To join us now, starting our 7th year together, Gad Zooks. Who could have believed that one bad idea could have gone on this long? But it is our anniversary show, so I do have to do something special. I was a kid. I don't remember how old. Less than 12 for sure. It was my parents' anniversary, January 2nd. They're not around anymore. And I remember we made them an anniversary party. And my brother played for them Al Jolson's anniversary song. Now, you probably have never heard of Al Jolson. Al Jolson was the son of an Orthodox chazan whose dream was to become a singer. And so he would go after shul to the vaudeville theater and sing. And he became known as the world's greatest entertainer, a name that he gave himself, as it happens. But apparently Superman named himself Superman, and that stuck. So anyway, but he called himself the world's, and one of his bylines was, "You ain't seen nothing yet," And he became a famous entertainer. They actually made a movie about his life called The Jazz Singer, which was the first talkie movie ever made. First movie with sound. They used to call them talkies. And it was remade by Neil Diamond in a more modern version of it. But anyway, so he had the anniversary song. I'm not going to sing the whole thing, but you'll indulge me. It's my anniversary. I when I said, it's the anniversary show, I thought of my parents' anniversary and my brother playing this song for my parents. Oh, how we danced on the night we were wed. We vowed our true love, though a word wasn't said. The world was in bloom. There were stars in the skies, except for the few that there were in your eyes. Now you get the idea. Anyway, so a little bit of nostalgia. As we say in Hebrew, nostalgia. And as somebody once pointed out, nostalgia is not what it used to be. So here we are together, and I feel like it's important to establish the Rabbi Orlofsky Show mission statement. I know I've said this many times, and you reach a certain age where you start to repeat yourself. And I know I've said this many times. You reach a certain age where you start to repeat yourself. But the fact is that you always have to have a mission statement. Stephen Covey in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says, every business has to have a mission statement so that they know whether what they're doing is consistent with what it is they're trying to accomplish. So one of the major automakers found that there was a flaw in their car, and they know that a certain number of them were going to result in death. So they had a choice. They could make either a major recall and fix the problem, or they could just pay off the settlements to the people who got killed. And they figured out that that was cheaper. So clearly their mission statement was make as much money as you can, even if it results in the death of individual customers. That was their mission statement. But Stephen Covey says that he was speaking at a hall in a particular hotel, and he needed markers for the whiteboard. And there was a guy up on a ladder that was cleaning, and he said, "Do you know where I could get markers for the whiteboard? Just tell me where to go." The guy says, "No problem." And he climbs all the way down, and he walks into the office, and he gets the markers, and he gives it to him. And he thought that was unusual. And there were 2 or 3 other instances like this. And at some point, he sits down with the manager of the hotel and says, "Listen, I've been in a lot of hotels. I've never seen this before. How do you explain it?" He said, "We had a meeting of the entire staff." When I say the entire staff, I mean housekeeping, the bellboys, catering, the office staff, the managers, everybody together. And we said, we want to be successful and we want to keep this hotel going. And the more successful it is, the more chance you have of keeping your job and of getting raises. So let's decide what our mission statement is. And he says, we decided that the most important thing is customer service. And we all decided together that whatever you're doing, you stop if a customer needs help. And we're all going to see ourselves as customer service personnel. And that's what resulted in a culture in the company of everybody knowing exactly what they were supposed to do. But if you don't have clear what your mission statement is, then when you reach a point of having to make decisions, you're not going to be able to know for sure how to be able to make that decision because you don't have your mission statement. And then he says something, which I used to say, but now I can quote Stephen Covey because he's more famous than I am. He said, every individual needs a mission statement in your life so that when you have to make decisions, you have to know what your mission statement is. And he says, your mission statement is your eulogy. Write the eulogy that you want them to say at your funeral. What is the life you wanted to have led? What is the life you want to look back on? That is your mission statement. And sit down and figure it out. Because once you have that clear, then you'll be able to make other decisions. But if you don't have that clear. Lahavdil, this is what the Mesilas Yesharim says in Perek Gimel. When he talks about in Zehiris, how to do Zehiris, and he says Zehiris means basically you have to make decisions. And he says, you're going to have to make decisions b'shas ma'aseh and shelo b'shas ma'aseh. And he explains what that means. He says, the first thing is you need definitions. That's why his way of saying a mission statement. What is good, what is true good, and what is true bad? And people who do not have their values defined find it very hard to have to make decisions. I'm pretty sure I told this story already. But I remember when my father was in the hospital, it was close to the end already. He had Yena Machla. And they came to my mother and they asked her to sign a DNR, do not resuscitate. And she signed it. Now, hospital staff is trained how to get you to sign a DNR. There is a fascinating book, and I urge everybody to read it. It's called The Undead. It was written by a fellow who is a professed atheist. He is a science journalist. He writes stories about science. And he wrote an entire book on brain death. And he said, there's no definition of brain death. It never existed in history. A person was considered dead either when they stopped breathing or when their heart stopped functioning. But brain death? And he says the reason brain death was added as a definition is because they want to take your heart. And you can't take the heart once the person is dead. So they had to come up with a definition where the person is dead when he's not really dead so they can take his heart. And then the whole book goes on to document stories of people who were not really dead, and the doctors poskin they were dead to be able to take their heart. There's something called locked-in syndrome, where the person appears to be brain dead and he's really not. There's story after story where the machine showed no brain activity and the person came back to life. So it's like, it's a scary thing. But he says one of the things they do is train the nurses in how to get you to sign a DNR, a do not resuscitate. And so I read this book and I was familiar with the methods. So I knew that it's wrong and I knew what they were going to do. It gave me a leg up. So I had I was having gallbladder attacks for a while. I didn't know there were gallbladder attacks. And incredibly painful. So I was in America. I was in the middle of a speaking tour. And I get one of these attacks. Lasted for 6 to 8 hours. I was lying on the floor. I can't describe the pain. I did everything I could. I was taking this. So when it was finally early enough, I called one of my sister-in-laws and asked if she could maybe get me, some kind of antacid or something because I was having such terrible pain. And she called another one of my sister-in-laws and she says, how long has he been having this pain? He says 6 to 8 hours. He goes, okay, an antacid is not going to help. They called Hatzalah and they took me to the hospital and they did a ultrasound. And the guy said, your gallbladder is double its size. We're going to have to take it out. Now, the gastro was a frum guy who knew my brother. And the surgeon was not a Jewish fellow. I said, look, I can't do this operation now. I'm in the middle of a speaking tour. I'll come back when I'm done. So he says, no, you don't understand. This is a very serious situation. You have to have the operation now. I said, can't you just give me something to tide me over? So the surgeon looks at me like I'm out of my mind, but the gastro who knew who I was already and knew that I was out of my mind. He says, I could, but if you suddenly get an attack, you're just going to lie on the floor in the airport for 8 hours and you're not going to be able to move. Nothing I can do about it. I said, okay, well, let's do the operation. Then, give me a day and then I'll go back out my tour. He goes, sure. He told my brother, there's not a chance he's finishing this tour. But while I was in the hospital, the nurse came around and said, do you want to sign a DNR? And I said, no. Now, she's trained to get you to sign the DNR because they want your heart. I think if he knew what kind of shape my heart was in, they would have just left me alone. But I said, no. He says, well, if you don't sign it, then they can do, some very invasive procedures. I said, be as invasive as you can. I'm not going. So they said, you might end up, being in a vegetative state. I said, I look forward to being a burden to my children. She just gave up at that point because they're not trained to deal with somebody who is informed and knows what to say. But people who aren't ready, they don't have their values clear and they have to make a decision. Or as someone once said to me, the time to decide whether or not you trust a particular hashgacha is not while you're sitting in the restaurant. That's the wrong time to figure out whether I do this or not. You have to get your definitions as clear as possible. That's obviously an ongoing process because you don't know. You don't know every possibility when you're defining it. So as new situations arise, you're going to have to define them as you go along. You could have the general idea, but what do I do in this situation? Yeah. So the greater my definitions are, the easier it's going to be for me then to be able to make a decision when I find myself in that situation. But you have to really spend time thinking about it. There was a story about this guy who got his foot caught in between the subway and the platform, and he couldn't get out. And the train was going to take off, and nobody knew what to do. So the guy from the magazine stand ran over and told everybody on the platform, push the train. And everybody pushed the train, and it moved just enough that he was able to move his leg, and just then the train took off. Well, he was interviewed later, and they said, that was a brilliant idea. How did you think of it? And he says, all day I sit down here in the train station. I just watch trains coming and going. And I think to myself, what would happen if somebody fell on the track? How would I get him up? So I went out and bought myself a rope and knotted it up, and I keep it in the back of the little booth here. So in case someone ever falls on the track, I can run over and throw him the rope and pull him back up. I thought, what happens if someone gets his leg stuck? And I thought through every possibility I could to try to come up with a solution. So once you have your definitions, making decisions are much easier. But of course, you have to be able to make a decision where you're in a situation. Sometimes you can ask somebody you can't. Sometimes you just have to make a decision based on the information that's available to you. And sometimes those decisions are life and death. Sometimes they're not. You know, and the more that you put yourself into situations of definitions, the better you can go. I used to teach in a seminary, and every now and then they would get a message that there might be a terrorist loose, and they would declare a lockdown day. Okay, so safety first, so I'm going to stay in. And then I had a call from somebody from America. Your relative is undergoing an operation. They asked if you could please go to the Kaisel and daven for them. So now I've got a conflict. Which of these are more important? Go and daven in the Kaisel or to listen to my school for the lockdown day? I'm not going to answer that question, but you understand that the decision is going to be based on your mission statement. What are your values? What's the most important thing? A girl asked me the following question. She said, I have had problems with my eating. I don't know if she had an eating disorder. I don't know what. This is how she put it. Some problems with my eating. And I spent a lot of time getting my eating under control so that I have control of my eating. Now I'm being offered 2 summer jobs. One is not so interesting, doesn't pay so much money, but you get a lunch hour. So I'll be able to control my eating when I keep a better way. The second job is much more interesting, pays more money, and the problem is you have to eat at your desk. And I'm afraid that if I take that job, I will lose the progress that I've made in controlling my eating. There have been many times I've presented this particular scenario to people and they say, what does she have to eat for? Shkayach, there's somebody who's just bursting with sensitivity. You know, this is the situation. You have to answer the question based on the situation that you have, right? there was this girl who was in seminary, and she decided to come back for another half a year. And she did it, she says, because I need that second half a year. And in the middle of my second half a year in Israel, my sister was getting married. So I planned to fly in, get there a day or two before the wedding, be there for the wedding, stay through Sheva Brachos, and then come back. And my mother said to me, "Oh no, I can't make this wedding without you. I'm not organized enough. I need your help to make the wedding." She says, "But I really need this year time in seminary." Because so you won't have it. Now, what comes first? A head of a seminary told me that this mother wanted her daughter to come home for her sister's wedding a few weeks early. And in the middle of the year of seminary, he says, "Why?" Because she has to have dress fittings. He says, "Listen, when she comes back from seminary, she's going to start dating. People are going to see her at the wedding. It's important that she looks good. Isn't that more important than having some more classes in seminary?" What do you do? How do you make a decision? The way you make those decisions are going to be totally on your value system in order to be able to make a good decision. So you have to have what your mission statement is clear. What is it that I believe in? And then I told the story not that long ago how I was offered a job to write for television, and then the agent told me he's going to give me a stand-up, help me develop a stand-up routine, and then I'd have my own show and everything like this. And I sat down and I said, okay, if he's right, I'll have fame and fortune. But maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me these koiches to be able to help Klal Yisrael instead. So because I knew what my values were, it was easy for me to make that decision. Other people have a harder time making that decision because they don't know for sure what they really want, what's really important to them. So as you go down the line and you have to make decisions, and that's really what life is all about. The first thing you need are your definitions. That's your mission statement. The Mesilas Yesharim continues, then you have to make a decision. And there's two levels of that decision. It's Shas Maisa. Right now I have to make a decision. Some people are getting in a cab and they're going to the Kaisel, and these are not the type of people you normally hang around with, but you haven't been to the Kaisel in a while and you really want to go, and they say, quick, we have one spot left. Do you want to come with us or not? You have to decide, do I do this or not? You're about to leave for class, or you're about to leave for work, or you're about to leave for your chavrusa, and all of a sudden you get a phone call and the person really wants to talk to you. Do I talk to this person, or do I do what I'm supposed to do? I have to make a decision right now. And then the second level is called Shelo B'Shas Ma'aseh, which is what? I review the sum total of my actions and I decide at the end of the day, was that a good decision or not? And it could be even if that one decision was good. I decided to take the phone call. I decided to help the person, move. I decided to cook it, and I never accomplished what I was supposed to accomplish. So then the sum total of all my decisions obviously took me to a different place than what my mission statement told me I'm trying to accomplish. You get it? Okay. So what's our mission statement here? I've mentioned this. I feel like I've talked about this recently, but you'll indulge an old man, I hope. And that is, I have been asked a number of times if I wanted to start a seminary. And I'd say, why? And the main answer was, because it'll make money. And I said, I don't believe the road to riches runs through the seminary world. I don't think that's the way to become rich. Yeah, I could be wrong on that, by the way. The real money's in bar mitzvah lessons. But, so I said, that's not enough of a reason for me to dedicate my life to make money. I said, if you can show me that there's a niche or a niche, depending how you want to pronounce it, that's not being filled that I could do, I would consider it. But just to make another seminary, why? Because there's so many people and they all need seminaries. And then, if I'm going to do something, it's got to be because I'm doing something else. I've spoken about this before. My son went from yeshiva to yeshiva, and all the yeshivas are basically the same. Basically the same, a little different this way, a little different that way. He finally came on a place called Chachma Yerushalayim, which is run by Rav Potash, who's Rav Chaim Zimmerman's grandson. And I said, he didn't make another yeshiva. He made a different yeshiva. It's different than every place else. They have different shittas. They have a different way of working with guys. They have a different approach, and they enjoy a certain level of success because they changed the methodology that had been used every place else. So when the idea came to start a podcast, I said to myself, why? So to get up and do Torah Shir, plenty of those. Yeah. A question is asked on a Gemara in Chagiga, Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Why is it that, okay, I don't mean to mach chayzik chas v'shalom. That has an essential purpose, but I understand. So I'll give another shir. All right, well, people argue you have something to offer that's a unique perspective. That is true. I've told this story before that when I used to give my Parsha shir in Or Sameach, half of the room were beginners from Or Sameach and the other half were guys learning in Mir and Brisk, because they felt what I was saying with chidushim and they wanted to hear what I had to say. So, okay, that's probably true, but I have a lot of svarim that I'm planning on writing. They're all in my head. The distance between the mind to the pen is a very long distance. But one of them is a collection of my insights into Chumash, which I wanted to call Od Perish HaTorah. Here's another one. You have Perish on the Torah? Here's another Perish on the Torah. Is it essential? I don't know. I don't know if it's essential or not. They're definitely different thoughts than anybody said. I remember at one point I was getting beaten up on the internet. It happens from time to time. And it's just interesting to see the comments. But this one guy he says, I was in his shir in Or Sameach. He didn't say anything you couldn't find in the art scroll. And I thought to myself, what are you picking on the art scroll? The art scroll would never say these things. But I have my own insights. I've been giving a Motzi Shabbos shir in Har Nof for close to 30 years. And I've heard this comment more than once. It says, I come to this shir because it's the only place that I come out feeling good that I'm a frum Jew. I feel like everybody beats up on you. And this place, you walk out with a good feeling. Makes you feel positive. And that was my main motivation for making this, why I started this podcast, was to be able to give people a sense that you can watch this and feel good, feel happy. If I can use that term, a positive Jewish experience, a positive Torah experience. I will share Torah thoughts. I will share recipes. I will share jokes. I'll do old Al Jolson songs. It doesn't really make a difference. My point is that I want people to be able to walk away from this. My first year, I got an email from somebody in Gateshead that I found so particularly poignant. And he said, I was burnt by the system. I don't learn Torah anymore. I don't go to any shiurim. Then I found your podcast. This is the only Torah I have in my week. And I was was moved by that because not necessarily that I'm smarter than everybody else, although an argument can be made for that, but because I try to be positive. And when you can present, this is the most important thing. And I'll never forget when I was giving this Motzi Shabbos Shir at one point, I was very busy before I lost all my jobs through my wit and personality. But I was very, very busy, and I had to cut out something. I was going to cut out this Motzi Shabbos Shir because it takes a lot of time to prepare one of these. And Rabbi Nissel took me to Rav Moshe Shapiro to rat on me. And Rav Moshe said, I understand you are very busy. You'll have to cut out something else. So I stopped talking to my wife. But, he says, and this is what he said to me, and these words stuck with me. If you can do anything today that give people chizuk, you're mechuyev to do it. Because we're a dora that needs chizuk. And that's really what we try to do here. Yeah. And there's a trope, if I can use that word, that people say, I give Musa, I'm speaking to myself. And there was a story about this one mashgiach who had used a special shtender whenever he would give a Musa shmooze. He kept it locked up in his office. One time somebody saw it, it had a mirror on it. So that when he would give the Musa, he would focus on himself. And the fact of the matter is, I need chizuk to get through the day. Life is tough. Life is tough, and we live in tough times. And we all need to be uplifted. And that's what I really try to do. I try to lift myself up and bring other people along with me. And that's what we do here. So I can't make everybody happy. In the first season, I had a shir. I had a episode called "It's a Show, Not a Shir," and that's why I called the Rabbi Orlofsky show. And somebody said once, gave me Musa. He says, "It's not a show. You say over Torah ideas." I said, "Yeah, I'll also say over other stuff." Because I had I had an episode with my son. We just talked about barbecuing. Not necessarily Torah content, although when the Beis HaMikdash comes, we Kohanim will need to know all that sort of stuff for the avoda. But I want to enhance people's lives. I want people to walk away and feel better, and be able to share it with their children, and be able to share it with their parents. And every now and then I get an email from grade school student who says, could you give me a shout out? I watch all your shows. I get from senior citizens. I get from non-Jews. I get, people who are nominally religious. I get from Hasidisha, people whose first language is Yiddish and they watch this show. And that is my mission. And I hope I stick to it. I really do. Like I say, 6 years is a very long time. And I don't plan out, except when I have an interview, and then I don't prepare for it. I know there are people I interview and they say, do you want to talk through the talking points? I said, no, I'm just going to talk to you and we'll see where the conversation goes. I'm not sitting here with talking points. It was very interesting. The last anniversary show was the one with Nissim Black. And it turned out to be the anniversary show. And he said a number of times during the interview, I've never said this before. I've never told this to anybody before. And I commented, I feel like that's because I'm not interviewing you, I'm talking to you. I didn't prepare a list of questions and what happened with that. I was sharing the experiences that I was having and meeting this person because I find people fascinating. And to be able to share that with them. And, when I go to the Project Inspire convention, most of the meals are buffet. So I lose weight because I walk to go to the buffet and someone stops me and the next person stops me and the next person stops me and the next person stops me. And people have stories to share and, it's just absolutely amazing. And they're either amazing stories or they're horrifying stories or they're, stories that are inspiring. I just find people fascinating. And that's what I really try to bring across. So I always try to come up with different ideas of things that I think will enhance the lives of my listeners and the people who are participating and who are watching. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'll sit on this desk till the end of the... No, that's not it. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. And that is, I do not have the words to express the gratitude to the people who are willing to take out time from their day to listen to anything that I might have to say. And if you find it worthwhile and you find that it adds to you and to your life, I cannot begin to tell you what a chesed that is for me, that I have anything to say that anybody cares about and that can make any difference to people. And so chazak ve'amatz, we should all start out together, and we should all be strong, and it should all be a good year, and we should all move forward. And every now and then I get suggestions for guests and people, and some of them I can do and some of them I can't. And, we'll see how it goes. But all I can tell you is, if you've enjoyed what we've done the past 6 years, I'm going to try to maintain the same level of mediocrity for this coming year. And so welcome aboard. And if it's the first show that you're seeing and you're just starting with the Rabbi Orlofsky show experience, well, I hope you enjoy this journey. And if you've been with me from the beginning, all I can say is, like two old friends, 6 years is a long time to be together. We will walk down these roads as long as I've got feet to carry me, and we'll go hand in hand down that road. Don't walk behind me. Don't walk in front of me. I may not follow. Don't walk behind me. I may not lead. Don't walk beside me because I don't like you. Just kidding. Just walk beside me and be my friend. And together we will walk in the ways of Hashem. I think that's my mission statement for what the Rabbi Orlofsky show is all about. Okay, so congratulations to all of you who've made it through along with me. And now we come to the question and answer portion of our program. By Anonymous, I hope this does not sound like Kfira. Why does the yeshiva system constantly bash Baal Habatim when the majority of Bachrum's parents are Baal Habatim? Isn't it counterproductive to tell kids that their parents are bad? We have schmoozing that they are terrible people, but yeshiva are the ideal. Also, the concept of a Baal Habatish teretz is saying they're second-rate Jews who can't think. Isn't this showing the majority of Klal Yisrael is not up to par? What is a guy supposed to think when he goes to work that then he has failed at life? I cannot tell you how many times girls have said to me, I just want to marry a guy like my dad. My dad gets up in the morning, he learns, he goes to work, he's an honest guy. He comes home, he spends time with his family, he davens 3 times a day with a minyan, he gives tzedakah, he's involved in the community, he has a seder at night. I'm just looking for a guy like that. I said, it's your fault. Because you have bought into this idea of putting down Baal Habatim. A frum balabos has always been the mainstay of Klal Yisrael. When people say Baal Habatim, they're using the terms often synonymous with Am Haaretz. But that's ridiculous. An Am Haaretz is an Am Haaretz. And I'm sorry to say there are guys learning in yeshiva who are Am Haaretzim. A balabos, you may have heard the term achoshev balabos. That's what I'm describing. From balabos. A beautiful thing. It's the bedrock of Klal Yisrael. Not everybody is cut out to learn full time. And the fact that we have created a system where the only option is to sit and learn full time is, I believe, a problem. And the reason it happened is because when we came to America, Torah was dead, and they had to create a society of people who were sitting and learning. And so that was the emphasis. But when you put all of the emphasis on that, then you end up doing it at the expense of other things. You know, Agudas Yisrael was originally a coalition. It was Agudas Yisrael and Poalei Agudas Yisrael. You know, there were Moshavim that were Aguda. Charedisha people who sat, they were farmers and they worked. When I came to learn Eretz Yisrael in 1975, people who were Charedim, what we would call today Charedim, who were sitting and learning, was a minority. The majority were working. They had jobs. They had no choice. You're going to support your family. And then at some point, we became victims of our own success. And it became not an option, but the only option. Now, there's two types of people who should be learning full-time. People who really, really want to, and people who have the gifts to be successful. They're not the same thing. There are certain people who are on the fast track to become a Gadol Ador, and that's a great thing. There are other people who are not on the fast track to become a Gadol Ador, but they have the Ratzon. They want it more than anything. They just want to sit and learn. Rabbi Orlofsky, of whom it says in Pirkei Avos that if you took all of the Chachamim and put them on one side, and Rabbi Orlofsky on the other side, Machriyas Kulam. So in the Pirkei of Rabbi Eliezer, it tells the story that he was an Am Haaretz. When we say an Am Haaretz, it means he didn't know how to read, didn't know how to daven, didn't know how to bench. And he finally runs away from home and he goes to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai teaches him how to bench, teaches him how to daven, teaches him how to say Krishma. He says, now go back. And he says, no, I want to keep learning. He says, no, you're too old for this to start now. You know, that's what his father told him. You're too old already. You know, get married, have a kid, send them off to learn. Yeah. But he wanted it. And he wanted it so much. Yeah. They wanted to make a Kolel Elyon in Bnei Brak, and the Chazon Ish says, don't do it. You don't know where Torah is going to come from. It's not going to be necessarily from the best and the brightest. It's going to come from the people who want it the most. That's what I believe. And so people, when I learned Chafetz Chaim, the Rosh Hashiva would occasionally tell somebody and say, listen, you're a very nice guy, but you don't have what it takes. Now you sat and you learned for a few years. Go and get a good job and get married and have a family and be a frum balabos. He would encourage people to do it. Now, Rav Henoch felt like he was given a mission from his father, Dovid Leibowitz, who gave his life for Habatzis HaTorah and was sent to America by the Chafetz Chaim to save American Jewry. And he felt this impetus to be Marbitz Torah. But if you haven't got it, you haven't got it. It doesn't make you a bad person. Rabbi Yisrael Salanta, he would understand the koiches of a person. He said, you should become a Rosh Shiva, you should become a Mashiach. And he said to somebody, you should be a balabas. Make money and help support Torah. So why do they do it? Between me and you, in my opinion, sense of insecurity. Because people who are secure don't have to put down anybody else. And if you put down Baal Habatim, it's only because deep down you feel inadequate. Because if you felt secure, you wouldn't have to do it. Shevet Yisachar sat and learned all the time, but there were 11 other Shvatim. They weren't sitting and learning all the time. They had other things to do. I mean, they learned, for sure. They had other things that they did. And Zvulun comes before Yisachar because Zvulun supports Yisachar. So that's my insight into that. By Anonymous, the Gemara in Tainus says that it wasn't for the necessity of rain, we would daven that it should be removed. What does this mean and why are we allowed to mix into Hashem's ways? Well, we obviously aren't mixing to Hashem's ways because we're not davening that the rain not come. But it says, before the Mabul, when the world was as it was supposed to be, it rained once in 40 years. When it lists the brachas, it says it'll geshamin be'itai. What's be'itai? Friday night when everybody's home. So the rain won't bother people. But rain can be damaging. Makes it hard to travel. It makes the roads muddy. Causes accidents. There are problems to it. So you need rain. The point we're making is that rain is a necessity for the world, but not something that we want to be as an inconvenience. Therefore, it should only rain be'itai in the good time. Yeah, but not when it's going to be inconvenient. That we have to say, don't listen to the tefillas of the Holchei Drachim who say, Hashem, make it stop raining, because this is hard for us. So therefore, we say we understand the world needs rain, but not because rain is of itself something like flowers and trees. It's something that's necessary for the functioning of the world, but not something that I need to be exposed to if it could get the benefits without getting the downside from the downpour. Okay. I don't mean to downplay. But Anonymous, is the problem with Chinuch that we are telling children that they are not worth much? Or is it because we are confusing Ben Adam LaChavero and Ben Adam LaAtzmo? Could it be, like the Teferet Yisrael says, that Midos Ra'os need Musa because they are Ben Adam LaChavero, but lack of derech eretz, chutzpah, self-destructive behavior, which is a lack of self-respect, and needs not musa, which knocks them down, but rather to be built up. This behavior is below you. You are too good to act this way. So, Rav Hutner said this already in the 1960s. And this is one of the problems of not recognizing changing times. Rav Hutner says in Europe you had a problem with gaiva, but in America we have a problem with, they didn't have a fancy word like self-esteem. He says self-worth. People in America don't have to deal with gaiva. We don't have gaiva. Yeah. In Europe, you had a problem with gaiva because there was something to be gaivadik about. But today, we're so weak and we're so small. So the shmoozin that we're given about gaiva in Europe, all it does today is knock people down. So when you talk about a type of musa that builds them up, that was traditionally slabotka musa, which was known as gadlus ha'adam. The concept of gadlus ha'adam is look at how great you are. And based on how great you are, that's what you have to try to achieve. And that's the message. The problem is that the Torah world is reactionary. And therefore, it takes a long time for us to change. So, because this is the way that Musa was given for a long time, people have never adjusted. For a while, I was speaking yeshiva, and I would go through the top shmuzin that I believe destroy Bachrim. I don't think, when they were given, I understand why they were given. But today, all they do is geschmet to people. And I remember I was speaking once, and my regular way, as you know, and I try to be as positive. That's my mission statement. And Rav Bullman was there, that's all. And Rav Bullman looks at me and says, "You're not fooling me. You're just an old Slobodkanik." I remember the originals. They gave shmooze in the same way. They would tell jokes. They gave all these positive messages, and it was just straight Slobodka Musa. You're just doing the same thing. You're just copying. I said, "Rebbe, that's probably the nicest thing anyone ever said to me." Halavai, I should be Zaycha to do it the way the old people did. But, people say things like, why aren't mashgichim, why don't they have a sense of humor? Why aren't they positive? Why aren't they? There was a time when they were uplifting. So, okay, so people were very, very strong, so you have to try to break that gaiva. But today, people need to be built up. And, the fact that we can take a Talmud and make him feel like $1 million. And I've told this to teachers. I said, you broke this fourth grader. You must be so proud of yourself. You took that kid and you smashed them. I bet you feel good now, huh? a real powerful person, destroyed this, this person made you feel good. That's sick, My son said to me once, you see these Rebbes, they would just slap a kid in the face. What kind of a human being does something like that? Just slap a kid in the face, a little kid, how could you behave that way? So this is the idea that the system is broken, where instead of making people feel good about themselves and being proud of themselves and helping them develop so that they have the strength to be able to change, unfortunately, more often than not, we put people down. And like I say, people who put people down, I think it says more about them than it does about the kids that they're attacking. From Jay, I buy lotto on my birthday and I feel I did something amazing that would give me a schus of winning. So maybe like 5 lotto tickets a year total. I figure it's the easiest and most practical way of me coming across the money if Hashem wants me to be zoiche to Ashiris. But I could be wrong. I could be wasting 5 lotto tickets worth of money every year. Maybe I would do better just to put it in staka or to buy a few cans of Arizona iced tea. What should my hashkafa be on the lotto? I think the bigger question is, what should your hashkafa be on Arizona canned iced tea? I find the concept of canned iced tea to be difficult for me to wrap my head around. Not that I like to judge, and that I'm a judgmental person, but I am always right. But anyway, but I digress. When I go to America, I either buy a Mega Millions or a Powerball, whichever one is higher, for exactly that reason. And my son told me that his Rebbe, or Potash, told him that you buy 1 ticket. Buying 2 tickets, by the way, your odds don't increase that much, really, in absolute terms, or 10 tickets. Yeah, it's not gonna make that much of a difference. But you buy 1 ticket for exactly your svara. That if a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants you to become rich, you made it b'derech hateva that you could do it because you bought a ticket. To win $500 million without buying a lottery ticket becomes much harder. You have to be much more creative for that. You know what I mean? You have to stumble on D.B. Cooper's hidden money that he buried someplace in Seattle when he jumped out of the plane. But the idea is, of course, that the more that you just do your hishtadlus, and it's not much of a hishtadlus, right? I think one of those tickets is $2. I don't expect to win. I don't know what I would do if I did win. I would be so shocked I'd probably just die on the spot. Then I wouldn't get my money. But the idea behind it is those who do it. Like I say, my son told me that's what his Rebbe told him to do. And the idea behind it is that this way you give the opportunity to be able to win if you were supposed to get it. So I did my ishtadlus. And if not, I'm out $2. Yeah. If you're in a position where those $2 are going to make a difference to your life, then by all means, don't buy the ticket. But for most people, $2 today, I don't know if you can buy a candy bar for $2. I don't know what you can do with $2. But, you can go to the dollar store and buy one of those little paddles, I think, with the little rubber ball and the elastic string, get one of those little parachute guys, the little soldiers with the parachute, plastic bag, and toss it up. So is your position legitimate? I have heard from people that yes, it is. If you want to argue that if a Kodesh Baruch Hu wants to become rich, I'm sure he'll come up with a method without me having to waste $2. And instead, I will buy myself canned iced tea. Okay. Whatever floats your boat, if that's going to work for you. And that's it for our anniversary show. I'm looking forward to another wonderful year, and I hope all of us have a wonderful time. If you want to find out more about the show, you can go to my website, RabbiOrlofsky.com, and you can ask a question. You can send an email. You can sponsor an episode. Please, we need sponsors. You can sponsor Parsha 5. We're about to start a new year, where you can sponsor a question and answer. You can sign up for one of our online shiurim. And that's it for now. Until next time, I am David Orlofsky, and this is the beginning of the 7th year of the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.
It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Knowledge and wisdom will help you grow. Lots of fun in every episode, and we don't have to rhyme. No, we don't. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show on RabbiOrlofsky.com. Torah anytime, YouTube and more. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Till next time, till we meet again. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.